is one big name of Hashem. In the letters, and like we said last week, right? And the white part around the letters. That somehow all of that together, the shapes and the intention, that's really what the heart of Torah is. And that the fact that it's told in certain stories and certain words is kind of a function of how Hashem gave it to us and what we need from it. But that's not, that the stories that we know have so many different layers to them. And it didn't have to be given over in that way. This is like a big concept, and many people talk about it. Okay. So we're going to kind of grapple with that idea today. The Shem Shmuel is going to give us one idea. We'll talk about a few other concepts, but I love that idea of the soul being, that the Aseret Dibros were the soul of the stones, because that's really what we're talking about. What did we mean when we said Na'aseh v'nishma? Right? It's actually a bit of an idiotic thing to say, right? Like, I need your help. Yes. Carry this 2-ton box. Well, okay. Did you ever offer to help somebody and then they're like, oh, I really need you to X, Y, Z, and you're like, that's actually beyond my capacity. Like, I really can't do that for you, So like, that's basically what we did at Har Sinai. We're like, yes, Na'aseh v'nishma. Okay, turn yourselves into giraffes. That's, right? There is this idea. So what were we saying when we said Na'aseh v'nishma? What were we saying? Yeah. We trust you. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I kind of feel it's a little bit like a child. Like, think about it. Like your preschool kid, if you say, come help mommy, they come running with a smile.
Why?
Because they trust, but also because they want to please us. They want to do it with us. They want to be involved with us.
They want a relationship, right? They want a relationship. They want to express their love and to get your love, right? So that's really what Torah is all about. It's a relationship. Torah is, it's a list of what Hashem, wants to hear from us. We learned this once in Tanya, that we davening is obviously, it's always a challenge. It's hard for all of us, to get into davening because it's words on a page, and how do you find the emotion behind that, and how do you connect to, Hashem that you can't see, and it's a challenge, definitely a challenge. Okay, but one thing that we learned in Tanya one time was that it's like a husband and a wife who, when the wife would say, like, I want you to say I love you, and the husband, you never, or like, let's do it the other way around, right? The wife says, like, you never say I love you, and the husband's like, what do you mean I never say it? I buy you flowers, and I buy you diamonds, and I bought you a house, and and she's like, yeah, say I love you, like, there's something about what she wants, and I'm kind of like not really going into the metaphor so much, but like, we each have things that, right? What are the 4 languages of love? All 5 languages of love, right? We all have things that mean something to us, that when the person that we love does, this, it means more than when they do that, right? Even though for them, truthfully, that actually might mean more, right? So you need this and that. But there's something about what I need to hear that speaks, goes right into my heart. That's what I need. And so on some level, right, Hashem, that whole childish, right, ki'ilu, right, midrash about like how Hashem sort of shopped Torah around to all the nations, and they were like, well, nah, we like murder, like it doesn't, there's a very, very deep emes in it, right? Because basically Hashem was like, do you want me? And they were like, no, thanks. Do you want me? Like, how vulnerable, right? Like,
it also has a lot to do with the preparation that Am Yisrael was involved in leading up to it.
For sure. But that's why we were able to say, that's why we were able to, when Hashem said, do you want me? We were like, yes,
like
yes, we want you.
The way that we're used to functioning, but we all have abilities that we don't tap into because we're busy functioning. But maybe they have prepared themselves so much that natural ability to make a decision without, the rational.
100%. Like what I guess the point I'm trying to make is like that they weren't focused on what was going to be in the Torah. They were focused on the relationship that it was going to create, right? And because of trust, because of love, because of their preparation, because of everything that they had seen in Mitzrayim, because of generations of hearing about, Avram Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu and Yaakov Avinu and Sarah, Rachel, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, that there was a core of like already something. And they were like, yes, we want more of that. We want you. We want a relationship with you, right? So
they weren't really ready.
Okay. So they weren't really ready in terms of.
They couldn't commit.
No, because of the ego?
Yeah.
So that's a different one. So again,
like that shifts the relationship though.
100%. And we're going to talk about that today. But there is definitely an inyan that, just to sort of put it on the table, right? That the egel was a sort of let's call it childish. I like this like theme, right? The egel was sort of a childish expression of what they actually did want. They really want the egel for them. They weren't trying to do avodah zarah. They were trying to represent Hashem, right? They couldn't really conceive of a Hashem that you can't see. Like we're still grappling with that, many years, thousands of years later, right? So definitely, there's that basis there that you're absolutely right, Neely, that they weren't ready, but it's a process, right? They wanted to be ready, right? Like we always talk about, they wanted to want to be ready, or they maybe wanted want to be ready, right? So the ego was that coming out, okay? That fear coming out, but the whole piece of it, why we were even at Har Sinai and why we even, wanted a part of this was because we wanted that relationship. So Torah is the way to have the relationship. Okay, that's what Hashem gave us. He gave this to us as a way of saying, this is what I need from you. This is how I need you to say I love you, right? This is what, the reason I talked about davening was because there is that concept that, yes, it's hard for us to daven, but in some ways, because the Anshe Knesset Hagadola, this is what they were able to see as the discussion, the I love you, that Hashem needed to hear from us, and that's also like that's a way of seeing what Torah is and why Hashem gave it to us. Okay, let's go a little bit further. So just back to the table down here, the calendar. Okay, so the 17th of Tammuz, we know Moshe Rabbeinu goes down, he breaks the first luchos, and then he goes back up for another set of 40 days to daven for Am Yisrael, to ask for forgiveness, to ask that they should be able to, do tshuva properly, that there should be this like repairing of the relationship. Okay, and then Hashem basically does, right? He says, yes, I forgive you. And then there's a third set of 40 days. There's a third set of 40 days, which we don't really talk about, right? But like there's the first 40, which ended on the Shvas Avar Tammuz. Then there's the second 40, which basically goes until right before Elul, or possibly on the first of Elul. And the third set is from the first of Elul until Yom Kippur. That's the third set. That's the third set. There's a third set. The middle one is where he davens for us. The middle one is the Shlosh Esrei Midos Rachamim. Okay, so what are we talking about today? So the Shem Shmuel asks a question. Okay, let's actually go.
When does he bring down the second lookout? After which 40 days?
So again, we don't know exactly if he went back up on the 17th of Tammuz or a couple of days later. Here, I'll print another one for you, Vina. That's the source sheet. That one is basically the source sheet, but there's like this luach of events. I'll print out another couple if anybody else needs it. Okay, just you have to grab it from the printer, yeah? Okay. So
what was the purpose of the third?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about. Okay. No, you did not miss it. You did not miss it. Okay, so let's go to the two sources at the very top, which are from the Chumash, just so again we have like a Chumash basis for this, okay? Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, so source 1 on your sheet. Psal lecha shnei luchot avanim, right? This is Hashem saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, carve 2 tablets of stone, kerishonim, like the first 2, okay? But again, this is going to be Moshe Rabbeinu carving and Moshe Rabbeinu engraving and not Hashem, okay? It's a different set of luchos. V'katafti al haluchos es hadvarim asher hayu al haluchos harishonim asher shibarta. And I will inscribe upon the tablets. Again, there's this question of who's actually inscribing and who, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu is carving, but that's another shir for another time. The words that were on the first tablets, which you shattered. Okay, then v'heye nachon laboker v'alita baboker el har Sinai v'nitzav tali sham al rosh hahar. Be ready by morning, and in the morning come up to Har Sinai and present yourself there to me on the top of the mountain. So after the second 40 days, that's not the second set of luchos, okay? The second set of luchos comes down with Moshe Rabbeinu after the third set of 40 days. That's Yom Kippur. And this is, so then these are the psukim. This is like, there's a whole parak basically in between what I have on your source sheet, which basically is mitzvahs. Hashem giving us mitzvahs. You can check it out in your, parsha, okay? This week's parsha, obviously. But these are a bunch of things, and Hashem basically says, I'm going to make a new covenant. These are all the things that you're going to have to do, and there's like a list of mitzvot, okay? And then he says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe, Ktav lecha et hadvarim ha'ele, write down these commandments, ki al pi hadvarim ha'ele, Karati itcha brit ve'et Yisrael. For in accordance with these commandments, I make a covenant, and this is like a new brit, a new covenant, with you and Yisrael. V'yihi sham haya arba'im yom. Wait, sorry, I don't know why that hey is like that. Let me see. Oh, v'yihi sham Hashem. Duh. Okay. V'yihi sham Hashem arba'im yom ve'arba'im laila, and he was there with Hashem 40 days and 40 nights. Lechem lo achal umayim lo shata. He didn't eat any bread and he didn't drink any water. Vayichtov al haluchos es divrei habrit aseret hadvarim. And he wrote down on the tablets the terms of the covenant, the 10 commandments. Okay, so the Midrash actually immediately asks a question, and it says the Shem Shmuel. Let's go right to the Shem Shmuel. Okay, ready? Yes. Okay. By Hisham, okay, this is the pasuk. This is the Shem Shmuel. Oh, who was the Shem Shmuel? He was the son of, he comes from a long line of illustrious, Rabbanim. Actually, his father was a big posek. He wrote the Eglei Tal. I always forget his dates. So he lived in the 1800s, the late 1800s. Here, he was born in 1855 in Sochachov. His name was Reb Shmuel Bornstein. His father was like a big halachitz. He's the grandson of the Kotzker Rebbe. He's also he married, whatever. You don't need to, but basically lived from 1855 until 1920. Yeah, 1927. So sometimes people call him the Sochachover, but he's mostly called the Shem Shmuel. Okay. So he says, okay, the first line is just the pasuk, okay? Vayihi sham im Hashem arba'im yom ve'arba'im laila v'gomer v'chtov al haluchos. Okay. Yesh li'itbonen. We have to wonder, lama hutzrach lihitmamea bahar gam b'pam hazot Mem Yom. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to stay up there, what's it called, like dilly-dally, right? Afal pi she'it mamea, right? And even though he tarries, I guess they could say that's a nicer way of saying it. Why did he have to stay up there for another 40 days? Shelimud haTorah kvar gmar ba'arba'im yom harishonim, right? He already learned the Torah, right? That was what he was doing the first 40 days. He already learned the Torah. Why does he have to stay up there for another 40 days? And then he brings up pasuk from Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, which is Midrash. Shehaya koreh bedat mikra b'yom v'shoneh bedat mishnah b'layla. That he was, up all day and all night learning Torah and repeating it at night. And, we know that that's what he was doing up there, okay? Ube'emtzaim hayu hatfilot ad shene'emar lo psalacha, right? And the 40 middle days, right? That second set of 40 days was the davening until Hashem said to him, psalacha, like make this next set of luchot, okay? Ubashlishit lo haya nitrach el aktivat yad Hashem yisparach al haluchos es haseres hadvarim. Bailey. And the third time, like what he's going to say here is basically like, what took so long, right? Hashem is basically saying, okay, come back up and we'll make another set of luchos, right? How long does it take Hashem to make a set of luchos, right? And even if Moshe Rabbeinu is the one, let's say, writing it, okay? A day, 2 days, a week, right? Why 40 days? Why does he have to go up there again for 40 days? Bevadai lo haya nitzrach shehayot zman, right? Didn't need to take so long. Ki hu amar vayihi, and Hashem could just say vayihi beluchos, right? And they would appear. Velama nishtaha sham od arba'im yom. So why did he have to stay there for another 40 days? V'nir'a al perush ma de'ita. Okay, so now, on your sheets, I put a version of the Zohar that has vowels, but of course I didn't print it up for myself, so I'm going to look on with one here. Okay, so it says in the Zohar Kadosh, no, the other one. It's in that Shem Shmuel, but it's just you see the next two lines have vowels. Yeah, okay. Kegav nada, that we know ad lo chavu Yisrael. Okay, that. Sorry, I have a sneaky English translation here. Shh, don't tell anyone. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Okay, ad la chavu Yisrael, that when Bnei Israel when they sorry. Okay, until now, the like Bnei Israel were in a place, okay? B'sha'ata dekaimu Yisrael al Tura di Sinai, when they were standing at Har Sinai. This is the important part. It avar minaihu zuhama, okay? Zuhama means poison, right? And basically it means, or impurity, I guess is another way of saying. Itavar means it went away from them. It passed away from them. Minaihu. Zuhama deha chivya, the sin of the snake. Okay? And a lot, the Zohar talks about this, obviously, many of the Mefarshim, the Mekubalim, the Hasidic Rebbeim, all the, Sfarim Kadoshim talk about this, that there was this purification that happened in those 3 days leading up to Matan Torah, the first, the Matan Torah, the hearing the Aseret Dibros, the first two from Hashem, that, the 4th, 5th, and 6th of Sivan, okay? That there was this purification that took away Chet Etz Hadas. So what does that mean? He says, the Zohar says, Bitul Yetzahara Hava Me'alma, that there was a negation of the Yetzahara from the world. B'dachu le'minaihu, and it was pushed away from them. Okay, so what does that mean? That it was pushed away. Okay, thank you. Okay, what does it mean that it was pushed away from them? So I'm going to just go into a little explanation so that you can understand this, and then we'll go back to the text. Okay, we learned this once a couple of years ago at your house, Chaya. about tshuva and chava and what the sin of Eitz Hadas was. So I'm just gonna like in a nutshell, okay, because this isn't like the, but there's an idea that the snake was the Yetzer Hara, okay? Meaning that it was not in our bodies. We did not have a Yetzer Hara. Man was not created with a Yetzer Hara. People were not created with, that wasn't the original intention. The original intention was that the Yetzer Hara would be an outside force that would be like a temptation, that would be like, here in the Zohar, it calls the Yetzer Hara an inciter, right? Like a person standing from the sideline saying like, you can't do that, or, you're not big enough, whatever, like all these things, right? And that originally the fight would be like me against that outside source. What happened when they ate, when Chava and Adam ate from the Eitz Hadas, Tov v'Ra, they essentially imbibed, they took within them the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara then became something that we're all unfortunately very familiar with, that lives inside of us. Okay? So what the Zohar tells us is that when Am Yisrael were at Har Sinai, that this purification process that happened, this incredible level that they reached, meant that they basically took it out of them, like a dibuk. It was like, what's the word? Like a exorcism, right? Like an exorcism of the Yetzer Hara, and it would have been then once again outside of them. Egel hazahav.
That lasted.
Okay, so there was this like moment in time when we reached that height again, and then we fell. Okay, and that's literally like the wording of the Chumash is like Bnei Yisrael have fallen, right? And so here we are once again. Okay, questions? Everybody got that? Okay, I know it's like really in a nutshell, right? Big concept. Okay, but we talked about it. Again, you can find this year online if you want. It's in 2 parts because I wasn't so good at recording back then. But but the whole idea of then eating was like that it paved the way for tshuva. Okay, and the Sikha of the Rebbe on this concept was that when Bnei Yisrael sinned with the Egel HaZahav, we actually paved the way for what's the word? Group tshuva, national tshuva, not just personal tshuva. Okay. And that's why often the second luchos are called like the luchos of tshuva, and they, were given to us on Yom Kippur, which is the day of tshuva. And we also know, by the way, that there's a very strong, all across the Sfarim Kadoshim, they talk about this, that when the first luchos were given to us, we only had the Torah Shebichtav, and when the second luchos were given to us, they came with Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay, so in a nutshell, if you wanted to leave now, right, I could just tell you the answer is, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was learning, was the oral Torah, okay, the Torah Sheba'al Peh in that third set of 40 days, okay? But the Shem Yishmael is going to tell it to us in an even awesomer, deeper way. Okay, so let's go. We're after the Zohar part, okay? So he says. Okay, ve'af demehei dehashiv Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom lahamlachim. Okay, so now you have to go. I'm sorry, I hope this isn't like too confusing, but you have to go onto your sheet, onto the other source sheet, on the third source. So because he's referencing a Gemara, and the Gemara is the famous one. So I brought most of it in English, and then it was actually shorter in Hebrew, so I put it in Hebrew. But you're all familiar with this. It's it's from the Midrash. Okay, that basically when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemaim to get the Torah, the angels were like, who do you think you are, and why do you think you deserve the Torah? So we'll just read it. And Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, when Moshe, source 3 on the sheets, when Moshe ascended on high to receive the Torah, the ministering angels said before Hashem, what is one born of a woman doing here among us? The Holy One, blessed be he, said to them, he came to receive the Torah. The angels said before him, the Torah is a hidden treasure that was concealed by you 974 generations before the creation of the world. And you want to give it to him? The Holy One, blessed be he, said to Moshe, give them an answer. Why should Torah be given to people? Okay. So what does Moshe Rabbeinu say? Ribono shel olam, Torah she'ata noten li ma ktiv ba. What is it? What's written in it? Right? Help me out here. What's written in it? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, asher hotziticha mi'eretz Mitzrayim. Right? I am Hashem, your God, who took you out of Egypt. Amar lahen lemitzrayim eraditim. So Moshe says to the angels, "Did you refresh my memory? Did you guys go down to Egypt? Right? Leparo hishtabatem. Sorry about that. Right? Were you enslaved to Paro? Did you, work your hearts out there? Torah lama tehelachem. What possible connection do you have to Torah? That wasn't you. You didn't have that experience. Shuv maktiv ba. And he asks again, what else is written in it? Lo yeh lecha elokim acherim. I'm sorry for the shameless there. Right? Don't have any other gods. Ben hagoyim aten shruyin sha'ovdin avodah zarah. Are you angels? Are you, nestled in as the one Jewish country in all the Middle East among, millions and millions of other people, right? Or are you, do you have to deal with avodah zarah? And then again, he says, what else is written in it? Zachor et Shabbat. Okay. Do you have to keep Shabbos? Do you do malacha? Do you need rest from that? And then okay. And then shuv maktiva. What else is written in it? Lo Tissa. Okay. Masa matan yesh b'nechem. Right. Do you have like issues with this kind of, these laws? They actually don't apply to you. Right? Are you jealous? Do you, right? Do you have mothers and fathers? Right? Lo tirtzach, lo tinaf, lo tignov. Do you do you have any desire to murder or steal or, or cheat? All these things, right? Do you have jealousy? Kinayesh beinechem? Excuse me. Okay, and this is the important phrasing. Yetzer hara yesh beinechem. Do you have a yetzer hara amongst you? Miyad hodu lo la'akadosh baruch hu. And immediately the angels were like, okay, he's right. You should give it to him, right? They need it more than we do, basically what they're saying, okay? Okay, so it's a big Gemara. It's a really, really important Gemara. The piece that the Shem Shmuel is going to focus in on is the phrasing yetzer hara yesh beinechem, which means what? What's beinechem? Between you, among you, right? With the idea, which yetzer hara is he describing here? The one that's inside or the one that's outside? Outside, okay? So that's what this phrasing is. Meaning when Moshe Rabbeinu has this conversation with the angels, it's at the point where the yetzer hara is outside of Am Yisrael. It's not within Am Yisrael. They have exercised it, and it's an entity in and of itself among them, not within them. And therefore, hold on to that question. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So
I don't understand what you're saying. That therefore they need the Torah if the Torah is outside of them.
So I'll just explain outside, and then we'll go in the inside. What the Shem Shmuel is going to say is that, like, why do the angels even want Torah? Like Moshe Rabbeinu is right? Like, it's like me saying to my child, like, here's the tax bill, right? Like, what's the kesher? Well, like, my child doesn't pay taxes. My child doesn't have any understanding of taxes, right? Or lahavdil, if I say to a great Rav, my mind just went blank. Okay, but the other way around, meaning like I'm giving a great Rav or I'm asking a great Rav like a shaila about a recipe, right? Exactly. Like it's an inappropriate thing for them, right? The way that we know Torah, yeah.
Giving a rich man tzedakah.
Okay, giving a rich man tzedakah. Okay, so the angels have no connection to what is actually written in the Torah, right? Meaning those laws don't apply to them exactly. Okay, but even though this might be at a time when
When the yetzer was outside of them.
right, meaning like even though even though angels, even though this is a time that the Yetzer Hara might even have been outside of Am Yisrael, there's still within human nature something that the laws of Torah are still applicable. Meaning, like, if we were to think that if the Yetzer Hara was outside of us, then we were like the Malachim, it's still not. It's still not. There was still something that we needed from Torah, even at that high level. And the angels don't. Right.
Means that we have something that Hashem created within us.
Right.
That can respond.
Right. Okay. So we need Torah, whether we're at this level or at this level. Either way, Torah is our guidebook for having a relationship with Hashem. Either way, Torah is our guidebook for growth and personal development and, reaching beyond ourselves, right? Even at that place where the Yetzer Hara might be an insider standing from the outside. Okay? Yeah, does that answer your question?
I think that the Shem will get to, like, meaning the difference in B'Tofachem and, like, meaning Kal V'Chomer, if the Yetzer Hara was within them, like it usually is.
Yeah, for sure.
Like during that stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly where it's going to go. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the sheet. Okay. So I skipped over. So I brought out the Gemara. Okay. And now he's just going to he's going to kind of bring out that same point. Okay. Klum Yetzer Hara yesh beinechem. Okay. We're in the second paragraph, 1, 2, third line down, right in the middle. Yeah. Mashma lichora de b'Yisrael haya Yetzer Hara, right? That meaning Bnei Israel had a Yetzer Hara, and kvar parashnu de Yetzer Hara lo haya betocha mamash ela haya omed bachutz mibachutz, and we've already explained, right? He did also, like, in a different, right, in a higher piece, also, a previous piece, this idea that we've already explained, that even though it's outside of them, they still, it still exists. It's still something that we're grappling with. And that's the higher level, right? Okay. Ukmo Adam Harishon, Kodem Hachet, and that they were like Adam Harishon before the Chet, Eitz Hadas. The Yetzer Hara lo haya betoch gufo, that the Yetzer Hara was not in his body. He's just explaining exactly what right? He's just, in a nutshell, briefly, he's explaining it. V'yushav ben shnei miftachei halev kmo hashta. It's beautiful language. It does, and it wasn't at that time sitting between the openings of our heart, the two openings of our heart, like it does now. It wasn't inside of him, like it is now inside of us. Ella haya rochev al hanachash. Rather, it rode on the snake. Ve'omed lo mebachutz, and it, stood outside and, incited from the side. V'ken mashma berashi. Rashi says, he brings it down. I have this on your sheet in source 4. The pasuk says, "Vayiyu shnehem arumim ha'adam ve'ishto ve'lo yitbashashu." Right. Source number 4. The two of them were naked, the man and his wife, yet they felt no shame. And Rashi says to that, right? Why didn't they feel shame? Shelo hayu yodim derech tzinius lehavchin ben tov lera. They didn't have any. They were totally pure and innocent. They didn't understand the difference between good and bad, or tov v'ra. Let's use those terms. Ve'af al pi shenitna bo dea likro lo shemot. Even though Adam had the knowledge to call to all the other things, by their names, lo nitan bo Yetzer Hara. It was not given in him a Yetzer Hara ad achlu min ha'etz, until he ate from the tree. V'nichnas bo Yetzer Hara, and then it went into him, into his soul, into his body, into him. V'yada ma ben tov l'ra, and that's what made him, see what was tov and what was ra, and thereafter to have an experience of shame. Okay, so he just brings this, the Rashi, right? Barashi Bereshis, Perek Bet, Kaf Hey, Lo Nitan Bo Yetzer Hara, Ad Achlu Min Ha'etz, V'nichnas Bo Yetzer Hara. Mashma Dimekame Hachi Kami hachi lo nichnas bo ela kmo mesit she'omed kenegdo vehesit. Okay, again, this is the Shem Yishmael saying what we said outside already, that it went into him and it no longer stood from the outside like an outside inciter inciting. The Ken Hayabi Yisrael Kodem Chet HaEgel. And that's how it was with Bnei Israel before the sin of the Egel. V'zehu sheba Zohar Kadosh, and that's why it says in the Zohar Kadosh, like we read above, v'dachu le minayhu, that it was expelled from them, it was pushed away from them. Hainu shedachu le mihiyut od shebetocham mamish, that it was pushed away from being actually inside of them. V'zehu digduk lashon klum yetzahara, and that's why in the Gemara the lashon is used that they have no yetzahara, or klum yetzahara yesh beinechem, velo amar betochacham, right? That he's saying that the yetzahara, like, do you have a yetzahara, but among you and not within you? Ki betocham gam b'Yisrael lo haya, because Yisrael also didn't have a yetzahara within them at that point. Ela haya be bria bifnei atzmo beinehem. Rather, it was a creation in and of itself among them. Okay, great. That's one. That's the concept. Now let's go to the resolution. Okay. Vehine Ramban, excuse me, Bereshis. Now I brought the Ramban in English. Okay, so let's just read on the sheets because that way it'll save a little bit of time. Source number 6, the Ramban in English. Yes. It seems right in my eyes that the humans did what came naturally, just as the heavens and all their hosts, which do only truth, meaning before they had a Yetzirah in them. They did what came to them naturally, and part of that was doing truth, whose acts are only truth and do not deviate from their appointed task. There is no love in their actions or hate. The fruit of this tree gives birth to the will and desire that those who eat it should choose a thing or its opposite for the good or the bad. This is why it is called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So meaning the Ramban is saying that before Adam HaRishon ate from the tree, he had a human nature. He did have a human nature, but that human nature did not include choosing something or its opposite for the good or the bad. It was a different existence. There was a purpose. It is hard to imagine human nature without that because we have no experience of that. But there was a reason that Hashem created humans, right? He had already malachim. So we know that there's a difference between even Adam HaRishon, even at that high level, or let's say Am Yisrael at Har Sinai, in those 3 holy high preparation days, there's still a difference between them and angels. We don't exactly know what that means, right? Because we have no experience of that. There was free choice. Exactly.
Does that mean that there was an elimination of free choice?
Maybe.
But there obviously was the option of making a choice because he made the wrong choice.
The egg, right?
Right. So there is some concept of free choice. We don't really understand what that human nature was.
But it seems like what it's saying is that when Moshe brought the first Luchot, that it was as if that Moshe had brought the Luchot into the world to revert back to the days of the Torah.
Yes.
In a sense, existence could have continued as that.
But it wasn't just Moshe. It was Am Yisrael that merited that. That was that's really where he's going to go with this. Meaning they merited a version of Torah that would have been appropriate for people of that stature.
Right, but people of that stature means no death, meaning before Adam.
We don't know. We don't know.
Death was brought. We know what happened as a result of Adam.
Well, we know our experience of it, right?
The Torah say that the consequences that that work, and I think death. No? Meaning...
So there's a few things. Okay, again, this is the version of Torah that we got after Chet HaEgel. Okay, so we don't know what it looked like before. We don't know what was in it before, Ki'ilu, right? We don't know the exact wording. We know that Torah is truth. I'm not saying there was never another, like it's a very nuanced concept, right? I'm not saying that there was like a different, that it was a different thing, but it may have been shaped a little bit differently. The mitzvot may have had different aspects to them, different nuances, and our understanding of what death is, even though we have those words in the Torah, we don't know what our understanding would have been. It's like a time travel, like a book of, time travel, when the person goes back and then nobody has any memory of what it was like before, except that one person, so Hashem knows, but we don't know. We don't know what that means. We don't know what human nature looked like in those moments.
What I love about this also is that what it's telling us, or what I feel like it's telling us, is that it's not in our nature. Meaning there's something greater to strive for.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
And we reached it
Right.
once, which means we can.
It's like that idea of when we were attacked, and there was a point in time where we knew over Torah, right?
Right.
We were running the Torah.
Right.
And it's like, no, we have a taste of
Right.
what that's like.
Right.
Like it's attainable. It's
Yes, that's exactly right. It's like when we always bring the mashal of like when your kid, once they jump into the pool once, they know they can do it again. And there's like a certain level of like confidence. Like, what's the point of learning the whole Torah when you're a baby in the womb, right? Nachman, teach us, and Naama, teach us, that what's the point of it if you're going to forget it all? The point of it is that there's some trace, there's some remez. And if Am Yisrael got to this point at Har Sinai, then we can get there again.
I think it's that the element of individual self-refinement and the individual aspect that we all have to strive for, to love ourselves, and because that's what it is. You're taking the Yitzhar internal, so you have to start there. Whereas before we had the opportunity to do it on a national level,
right?
And now we have to revert back to starting with the individual and bring that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's a call to action in a way, right? There's this I would say there is a level of like both personal and on an level,
Right,
even though.
No, but you have to start with the individual, read the Torah from what is your story, and then how do you bring that outward?
Yeah.
As opposed to, because we had the opportunity on a national level, we have the Yitzhar, with the story that we've done, so we need to go back to the.
Right, if you right, that famous story, like I thought I could change the world and then I realized I couldn't, so I started with my town, and then I couldn't, and so I started with my street and I couldn't, and my family, and then finally I got to myself and realized that if you change yourself, that has an effect, like that's like a ripple effect in the pond of throwing a pebble into the pond. Yeah.
I think that's what Corona is.
Explain.
It's very much what's happening right now. Hashem is saying, all right, you guys can't take care of yourselves. You're busy trying to take care of the world. Lock yourself in your house.
Right.
Lock yourself with your kids. Take care of your kids. Now your kids are taken care of. They're still back in school. You can't really go anywhere. You still have this limit. So take care of yourself now. All right, now you take care of you. All right, your streets open.
Right.
You
Right.
can go 1,000 kilometers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful. It's so funny. I feel so much more comfortable saying things like we can't conceive of what that's like, because I feel like this year, all of a sudden, like we are really hit in the face with something that we would never have imagined in a million years this happening, but then it happened. So, okay. So now we're a little bit more open to these ideas of like things can happen. Like Hashem can, like that can change the world.
And then once it happens, then we want to walk down again.
Oh.
So it's just like, no, you didn't get it.
I'm sorry, I'm going over. If you need to leave, please go ahead, and I'll send out the recording afterwards. I'm just gonna, I do want to finish it though, because then it's really, well, you know what, maybe we'll just skip a little bit down, and I'll just say there's three things that he says. This is a really important line, and then we'll skip down to the bottom. Okay, in that Ramban, go to the third line. Okay, where it says B'Parshat Nitzavim. Okay, yeah, it's right in the middle of the line. B'Parshat Nitzavim k'tav sheken yeh la'atid sheyashuv ha'adam bizman hahu la'asher haya kodem chet'o shel Adam harishon. That in the future, people will will return, return, I guess is will become once again that person, that type of person that was, that Adam HaRishon was created to be. That they will do in their nature what is, appropriate to do. And it won't be like, sometimes we dafka have a taiva for something that's really, really unhealthy for us. And, I won't speak for anybody else, but, there's like a moth to a flame sometimes, right? Like we're drawn to things that are dafka not so good for us. And again and again and again, because we haven't learned this lesson yet. And that will be like in that future, that will be the bittul of the nullification of the Yetzirah. This is what I wanted to just bring out, and then I'll say the rest outside. That there's 3 time periods. Hainu, Adam HaRishon Kodem HaChet, right? Adam HaRishon before the sin. VeYisrael b'shata dekaimu al Torah d'Sinai, and when Bnei Israel were in those 3 high holy days before Matan Torah, Sinai, before the Egel HaZahav. Or I guess more than that, more days than that, right? Until Egel HaZahav, they were at that place. And V'limot HaMashiach. And in the time when Bezrat Hashem should be now, in the coming of Mashiach, they were all at the same place. Now, I'll just say the rest of it outside. And essentially the rest of it is that the Torah that we have was given to us with specific mitzvot that enable us to strengthen the muscles that we need to strengthen. Now, for each person here, that means something different. For each person in the world, that means something different, right? Sometimes the mitzvahs that are the hardest for you are the ones, dafka, that, that you need to work on harder. Sometimes the ones that are easier need to be done more, all these things, but the mitzvot as we have are designed by Hashem to bring us back to this place again. And so the Torah that Moshe received at that place when Bnei Israel were different people with a different nature was appropriate for those people with that nature. And it says it would have been maybe like it says belevush yoter dak. It would have been enclosed in something, smaller, right, thinner. The Torah itself is a levush for Hashem, right? It's a levush for the relationship with Hashem. So we could have had, we needed less tips. I don't know. We needed less, practice, let's say, less development to get to have that close relationship. Okay, then Egel HaZahav. So, but Hashem didn't, give up on us. He wants us to still be able to access that relationship. He wants to have a relationship with us. So he gave us the version of Torah, the version of himself enclosed in Torah that we could access. And that will enable us to get back to that place. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing in the 3rd set of 40 days. He was learning that Torah for the people that he had to teach it to, so that it would be accessible to us. So I'll give us all a bracha that we should know that the Torah that we are learning now is tailor-made for the issues that we face on a daily basis. And it's the medicine, Hashem sent the cure before the disease. So I bless us all that every time we open a sefer, that every time we learn a piece of Torah, every time we listen to a podcast, every time we come to a shir, that we build this koach of picturing ourselves like taking the vitamins, right? And getting stronger and getting better, and knowing that through those words that we are actually accessing Hashem and we are having a relationship, and we should have the schus of keeping on trying to have that relationship.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So nice to see everybody. I had too much to say today to gush about your all being here, but I'm so happy that you're all here.
You look
It's a nice
familiar.
meeting.
We were in a car together.
Oh, that's why you look familiar.
Bye, everybody on Zoom.
Thank you.
Love you. Have a good